well, it's time to start the 7th Doctor's era, and I don't know what it is, but JNT era Doctor first stories just seem to not be that great. Castrovalve is probably the best by default. The same can be said for season openers since season 16, apart from Attack of the Cybermen, of course. They just haven't been that great, and sadly the trend continues. So I don't know what it is with first Doctor stories in the JNT era, first stories of a new Doctor, or season openers, and also for season 17, which was not a JNT era story season. But I don't know what it is, but apart from one time, and the same could be said for season finales, apart from one time before season 25, they're not that great for several years. So, okay, let's dive into Time in the Rani. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 24, Story 1, Time in the Rani. We're finally on to the third to last story of... Hang on, I'm wondering if my voice is lining up with the footage, because I've had that problem recently on a few videos with Attack of the Cybermen review and the Wizarding World overall ranking. Don't know if the voice is lining up with the movements. I apologise if it doesn't. So, just watching myself. So, we're on to the third to last season of the Classic Era, and on to the final Doctor of the Classic Era, the 7th Doctor, as played by Sylvester McCoy. He's so awesome. Unfortunately, McCoy possibly gets the worst post-regeneration story ever. I mean, say what you have about the Twin Dilemma, but in its defence, there is something there. There is at least some sort of idea. There is at least some sort of imagination. They at least had something to try and work with. It didn't turn out very well, but at least there was something there. Plus, it didn't get me angry, which is why I didn't rant about it, which may have surprised many of you, and I know a lot of people would rant or colossally rant about it. Time in the Rani, on the other hand, there is literally very little here to sustain a 4-part story. I think it could have worked at 2, maybe 3 at most, but 4, I think it's a stretch. Episode 1 is pretty much a nothing. Really, there is nothing. I mean, to be fair, I do prefer the first scene after regeneration, the first scene of the actual story where it actually does set up the plot. I prefer that more to Twin Dilemmas, where it just opened on the twins, and it was on a scene that wasn't really that interested in the plot. It didn't really set up the characters of the twins very well, so that's why I complained about that scene. But here it does open on something that does sort of have relevancy to the plot, and it at least reintroduces us, I should say, to the Rani, once again played by Kate O'Mara, who is easily the best thing in this story. Kate O'Mara actually turned down some work in America to do this story, and I think she puts a lot of effort into this role, and she just makes it really well. She took a great character from Mark of the Rani. Yes, I said the Rani was great in Time in the Rani. Sorry, Mark of the Rani. And then she certainly made the performance even better here. I don't know if the character's that better. She's definitely kind of added more to the character not really caring. They've definitely developed that a bit more here. But that's as far as the good points go. I mean, a few other actors as well do some really good stuff. The guy who tags along with Mel, the guy playing him is good, and of course McCoy makes a good first impression as an performance-wise. I think this might be Bonnie Langford's weakest performance as Mel, and the character's worst point, possibly. I mean, we'll see how it goes afterwards, but possibly the weakest point of a TV story, and she's not really that interesting. She's the most there she's there for is for the Rani to say, oh, she's the Rani, when Rani's pretending to be her. So the most Mel does is just be scapegoated to be the Rani and get caught in a couple of traps and hang out with this guy for reasons. And yeah, when the Doctor wakes up, he's kind of falling all over the place, and yeah, McCoy is a bit of a comedic actor, but my God, do they start early? Even the Rani claims it's idiotic, and it does feel like it's quite an awkward phase. And then they do the whole memory loss thing, which it makes sense here, to be honest. It does make sense. It does get a bit annoying though, and then the Doctor somehow regains his memories, but it doesn't really. He sort of regains his memory, but he doesn't really state it at the very end. Yeah. Once Mel turns up and says that she's Mel, and she realizes that he's the new Doctor. They sort of, okay, we're on good terms now, and the person pretending to be you was in fact the Rani. Once that happens, the Doctor seems to be normal again. Well, normal, as normal as you can be for a new incarnation. But I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't quite work, and the whole plot, doesn't. I don't know. It seems. I don't know. It's just strange. There were some points where I did enjoy it, but it was more for the fact that it was being silly rather than actual enjoyment. It was just. I mean, there were a few points of enjoyment, but I think it's just a very weak story. At least Twin Dilemma had imagination. This story. I think Andrew Cartmel said there was very little to this story, and I have to give him praise for actually managing to make it at least watchable. New script editor Andrew Cartmel, and the whole Rani's plot is to get all the brains of these geniuses and fill them into this brain, and then send this meteor onto the Kershaw and destroy. I don't know what's going on. It's not even that complicated. It's just there's nothing there. It's just. And what is the deal with these bat people having to drink this red liquid? What is that all about? And the whole reasons of the stinging insects. That's just I don't know what is this? What is this? I can't actually get hold of what is going on. It's a nothing. It's a nothing story. Apart from the regeneration at the start, which is very disrespectful to Colin Baker, although he may have had the choice to come back and declined it for the regeneration scene itself. Although he claims that he wasn't invited. Although he has also recently apologised for not coming back for the fans. Thankfully, Big Finish and he managed to create a Thankfully, he and Big Finish managed to make the magnificent The Sixth Doctor, the last Adventure series, which features his regeneration story at the very end, The Brink of Death, which was very good. Very, very good. If you've seen my review of the series, then you'll know how much I like that series. Sadly, the regeneration here is just quite weak. Just because they couldn't ask Colin Baker back for a regeneration scene, or because they didn't want him to do a final episode or a final story or a third season. They decided to fire him so that the show could just carry on, because he was the source of all the problems, apparently. And so instead of being allowed to do season 24 as his third and final season, or even given one story, or even a final 25-minute episode, which could have served as a special, perhaps, maybe a Easter special, or summer special, in between the waits of seasons 23 and 24, but no, decided to kick him out, and because he either wasn't given the option, or declined to come back for the regeneration scene at the start of this one. The regeneration effect itself looks a bit tacky. I mean, fair play for them to trying something a bit different this time round, and having to completely cover Sylvester McCoy's face, because they got him to wear the blonde wig. To be fair, it's better he wore it than somebody else, some other guy who got lucky. It's better that they got McCoy to wear it, and then at the very end of regeneration, we could get a shot of him just afterwards. It looks a bit tacky though. But for what the production problems they had, fair enough. I don't know, just the story that follows is just not that great. The first scene is fine. Some bits are okay. It just doesn't feel very good. There's some humorous and enjoyable bits, but it's more for the fact that it's silly, like with Time Lash, rather than the fact it's actually funny or good to watch. There's also on an execution standard with the filming and editing, it's got some weak moments and it feels a bit disjointed. The music's okay, but I think it's just this bit disconjointed in both the written and the execution departments. Kate Mara's amazing as the Rani, and the character is actually probably best written, but I don't know. It just but aside from them, it's not that great. I mean, like I said, Sylvester McCoy makes a good first impression acting wise. I mean, the character's still got a bit of developing to do, but I don't know. The bit where he tries on previous Doctor's costumes, the Fifth Doctor's cricket outfit, the Fourth Doctor's coat, scarf, and hat, presumably the season 18 version, or is it? Yeah, it might be. I think one of the Third Doctor's frilly shirts, and then the Second Doctor's woolly coat. Nothing from the First Doctor. And the Sixth Doctor, he had just taken that off. I mean, the closest to the First Doctor he probably got was the Napoleon costume, reminiscent of the Reign of Terror, where Ian and Barbara almost, they didn't meet, but they saw Napoleon. But yeah, eventually he chooses his costume, and it's a pretty good costume. Also has that scarf thing, but notably he drops it in part 2 or part 3 at the Rani's lab, and then he just carries on without it. I don't think he's got the umbrella in this story. In Paradise Towers, he'll have a standard umbrella before I think in Paradise Towers he gets his question mark umbrella. I think. And also these bat creatures that help the Rani. I mean, I'm glad that they don't actually show the design, the creature themselves in part 1. I like how it's building up a mystery, but then it just pops up in part 2 and the mystery's ruined. I think it would have been good if it was a reveal at the very end of part 1 or very start of part 2, but 5 minutes into part 2, it's just here you go. So you either couldn't reveal it slightly earlier, or you couldn't wait till the end of the episode to reveal it. And the creatures themselves, okay, I'm okay with a bat-like design, but what is up with that head? I mean, the body's not too bad, but the head, what is it? It's weird. It's like it's got eyes all 4 sides of the head, but of course it's got the eye slots for the actors. And their face just looks weird. And what is their deal? I don't even know what this point of them was. Was it so that the Rani could have some hench people? Why didn't she just? I don't know. What are these guys? I don't even know why the Rani's doing these experiments to begin with. To be fair, the Rani doesn't need to have an excuse, but I would have liked one. No brain thing. I don't know. It's so weird. What is going on? Oh my god. I thought this was going to be I was going to do a rant on this story, but to tell you the truth, it's more of I don't know what is this story about, rather than an angry rant. But I'll still classify this as a rant because I'm literally saying nothing but bad things apart from about Kate Mara and the Rani being a pretty decently written. It is Pip and Jane Baker, and this was their baby, I suppose, so to speak. But I don't know, this story doesn't work. I don't know, apart from the Rani's character and Katie Mara and Sylvester McCoy and a few other good actors in the story, this story just, I don't know, the locations are alright. They look decent and they use them well. And this is directed by Andrew Morgan. This story is directed by Andrew Morgan, who would go on to direct Remembrance of the Daleks. He is one of the best directors of the McCoy era just for that story alone. But he also directed this, which kind of makes me want to say he's one of the worst directors of the McCoy era as well. So I'll put him as an in-between. Because he just, I don't know, his directing just, it doesn't work here. It works fantastically in Remembrance, but it works weakly here. I don't know. This story, I have no idea what this story's supposed to be. I think, to be fair, maybe Andrew Cartmel made it more than what it was going to be originally. Maybe it was just going to be completely nothing. And Andrew Cartmel, who's stated that he didn't think this was a very good story for Sylvester McCoy's first adventure. And so I think he tried to sort it out. Noise outside. But I don't know. I mean, he may have made it better than what it may have turned out. But in the end, Time in the Rani feels like a very weak way to start off this season, and a very weak way to start off the 7th Doctor. It seems like a spit in the face. The opening scene seems like a slap in the face to Colin Baker, and the rest of the story, whilst McCoy does a great job, it doesn't get his Doctor off to a good start, so it's kind of a slap in the face of him as well, so it doesn't really respect either Doctor, who appear however briefly, in this story, and I'm talking Doctor as a character, because of Colin wasn't in it, so I'm talking about the 6th Doctor as a character. It kind of doesn't really respect either 6th or 7th Doctors, which is a shame, and yeah, I can see why Pip and Jane Baker would never work for the show again after this story. And apart from maybe novelizations of their episodes, or at least this one at the very least, I can see why they were never on the show again. And I can see why they were never brought back. They probably weren't wanted back. So, yeah, Time in the Rani. I'm not as angry as I thought I was going to be, but I'm still going to be giving this story a 3 out of 10. And I don't know if I can classify this as a rant. I think I will consider this one a rant. I can certainly say it's more of a rant than Twin Dilemma. Whether it would be in the same score or lower or higher, whether that. But I think I wasn't as angry with that one. This one, I'm not as much angry as I am, confused, to be honest. And that's why it's kind of a ranty, because I'm a bit confused. What is this story supposed to be? I mean, the only good thing about it is the Rani. The Rani's great, but apart from that and a couple of good actors, it's a mess. It's a big, big mess. That's why I consider this one to be the worst post-regeneration story, and maybe also the worst regeneration story, because 6th Doctor Last Adventure, that's not an on-screen story. You're going to have to settle with this for visuals for the 6th Doctor's regeneration, unless they make an animated version of Last Adventure at some point, or at least Brink of Death, or at least the regeneration scene. There is a fan one out there, go check it out, at least one. But, yeah, disrespectful for Doctors 6 and 7, and we don't know what the excuse of the 6th Doctor's regeneration is here. The novelization says he hit his head on the console after falling off his exercise bike in the when being attacked by these funny lights. What were these lights anyway? I don't know if they said or not. They make a reason in the Last Adventure in Brink of Death. They say the radiation, and it might be part of the Rani's trap for the Doctor, and it's deadly to Time Lords, and that's why the 6th Doctor regenerates into 7. They at least give that excuse. Not sure how Spiral Bound's excuse of the 7th Doctor pretty much killing the 6th Doctor somehow mentally leads them into this situation. It's just weird. You know, I'm ready to move on from this story. I've got to review Paradise Towers in a minute as well. So next time, Paradise Towers, let's get on to this one. I'll see you guys next time, and goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. So, it's time for... Same goes for season openers, and not just for JNT. Graham Williams' 3rd season also opened on a week story. But yeah, season openers, apart from Attack Assignment and First Doctor stories of the... Oh, screw this. Excuse me. Yeah, start of the 3rd to last season of Screw This. Unfortunately, he possibly gets the worst post-regeneration story of ever. Literally, unfortunately, McCoy has won. Unfortunately, McCoy possibly gets the worst Literally, I mean, say what you like about the Twin Dilemma, God knows, we all have. Plus, it didn't make me angry, which made... plus, I didn't rant about. Plus, it didn't make me angry, which is why I didn't rank. Fuck! Plus, it didn't make me angry, which is why I didn't rank. Fuck me. Stop getting your words mixed up. Stop Fleming. It looks a bit tacky. The effect itself also looks quite tacky, but nice. The scarf thing he has on as well. That's couldn't keep it a mystery anymore, or you wanted to keep or you decided to make it a little bit long, so you couldn't even, apart from make novelizations, they wouldn't really work for the show.